Moore characterizes them, the Al-Qaeda of the Western Hemisphere. These are well-funded, dangerous, violent drug cartels that operate as terrorists who are flooding our country with drugs.
The latest U.S. strike on Wednesday killed 3 people in the eastern Pacific Ocean. I'm Donna Warder.
Assessing home sales up last month.
The National Association of Realtors says used home sales rose 1.5% from August to a seasonally adjusted annual rate of just over 4 million houses. That's the fastest sales pace since February. And sales jumped 4.1% compared with September a year ago. The national median sales price climbed 2.1% from a year ago to $415,200. Rich Thomason reporting.
More on these stories at townhall.com.
Hey, I'm Mike Slater. My dad passed away at the age of 63. It's out of nowhere. Had a stroke. Super hard, obviously, for the whole family, but my dad had life insurance. This is why I have life insurance for my family, for my wife and 4 kids. And the best place to get life insurance is ethos.com, because you can do it in 10 minutes. And there's no medical exam and no blood test, just a few health questions. Get life insurance in 10 minutes so your family is protected. Ethos, E-T-H-O-S, ethos.com/Mike.
Balance of Nature's fruits and veggies supplements, changing the world one life at a time.
It's a Balance of Nature. It's really good. I really like it.
Going to the gym and exercise. My Balance of Nature is part of my routine.
Start your journey with Balance of Nature supplements. Go to balanceofnature.com and get 35% off your first preferred set with free shipping as a new preferred customer by using discount code BALANCE.
Due to a very unique location, the San Francisco Bay and Oakland estuaries have a history of water-related criminal activity. So perhaps it's no surprise, as correspondent Ben Thomas reports, federal agents are now being sent to the city by the bay.
The U.S. Coast Guard says it's providing a base of operations for U.S. Customs and Border Protection agents in the San Francisco area. The San Francisco Chronicle reports 100 federal agents are expected to arrive at the base in Alameda starting Thursday. It's part of Trump administration efforts to track down immigrants in the country illegally. San Francisco's mayor and California's governor condemned the move, saying it's meant to provoke protests. President Trump has repeatedly mentioned deploying National Guard troops to San Francisco over crime concerns, as he has in other Democratic cities. Local and state leaders say crime in the city is at record lows and have vowed legal action. I'm Ben Thomas.
Breaking news at townhall.com. Britain's antitrust watchdog on Wednesday targeted Google and Apple for their strategic roles in mobile ecosystems, opening the door for regulators to impose new changes in the way they run their businesses.
The Competition and Markets Authority escalated scrutiny of the 2 American tech companies by labeling them with strategic market status. It follows separate probes that the CMA opened into Google's Android and Apple's iOS using newly acquired digital market regulations. The watchdog has said Apple and Google hold an effective duopoly, with 90 to 100% of mobile devices in Britain running on either mobile platform. Google has called the decision disappointing. I'm Charles de Ledesma.
On Wall Street, a good day so far for investors, with the Dow up 125 points and Nasdaq up just about 200. More of these stories at townhall.com.
The following is an America Matters media production. The views expressed do not necessarily represent those of the station or its advertisers, although we think they should. But that's the opinion of America Matters Media.
Mr. Constitution, Douglas V. Gibbs here on Zaki Radio, ZakiRadio.com. Wednesdays and Thursdays, 11 a.m. Pacific. On Wednesdays, I'm on with Mr. Warhamster right here at the same place, ZakiRadio.com. And here's what's great about it, ZakiRadio.com to listen live or to catch the show later. You click whatever platform you want to go to, find the video, go from there. I also put the links to the shows on DouglasVGibbs.com. And of course, there's links to all of my programming, not just what's here on ZakiRadio.com, America Matters Media, but on all of my Navigation to Liberty Media programming. Just go to navigation2liberty.com, navigation number 2 liberty.com for all of that programming and links to all my books. I've got a dozen of them. And let's not forget that Leo Zaki, who is he is the guy behind this programming. He's running for governor in California. So if you're in California, you're going to be voting. I hope you vote. You should be voting. LeoZaki.com, LeoZaki.com. Thank you, Leo Zaki, for stepping up to run for office, because that's what we have to do. We have to. Political office draws those who seek power. How do we counteract that? How do we provide a counterbalance? We run as well. We hold office as well. And I think Leo Zaki is one of those guys that if you're a conservative constitutionalist, you believe in the American way, you are a patriot, this is a candidate you want to look into, leozaki.com. Welcome to the program. It's always good to be here. It's good to be on all my programming. I'm on something 6 days a week. Monday is the only day I'm not on some type of programming. I have 2 shows on Saturdays. And so now, welcome to the program. Let's understand, as American patriots, morality is an important part of who we are, what we are. In the book of Jeremiah, Old Testament, for those of you who are not Christians, bear with me. You might learn something too, because in the book of Jeremiah, we're told that the heart is deceitful in all things. You hear it all the time, right? Oh, well, trust your heart. Just do what your heart says. No, your heart lies to you. Your heart, your feelings, it's important, don't get me wrong, to have feelings, to listen to our heart a little bit, that's fine. Love comes from our heart, right? But it has to be checked by other things, just like with the Constitution, right? You don't just run ramrod with government or with democracy or something like that. There needs to be checks and balances. The checks and balances to your heart is your logic, your common sense, your conscience, your critical thinking, your discernment. The list goes on and on and on. So if you listen to the heart only, it's making all the decisions, you got a problem. Sound like a political party? Yeah, of course. And in Romans, we are reminded that all have sinned and fallen short of the glory of God. Without Christ, without godly morals, we are lost, we are wicked. Politics runs downstream from culture. Politics is our culture in an official mode. And if you take a hard look at today's culture, you can see why we're in trouble politically. And I often say, you can't get your political house in order till you get your godly house in order. If our house of God, our time with God, our religious house, if you want to call it that, isn't in order, if we are not a moral nation, how are we going to get our political house in order? It begins with getting right with God. Now, America doesn't have a policy problem per se. I mean, it does, but those policies, the reason for those policies, the reason why we're in trouble with all these idiotic lefties running around in the streets threatening to kill people and attacking ICE agents and murdering babies and women, all of this stuff, it's because we have a morality problem. Benjamin Franklin warned, only a virtuous people are capable of freedom. As nations become corrupt and vicious, they have more need of masters. So let's open today's broadcast with that truth in mind. Now, you heard if you were listening before I came on the air, if you caught into the news at the top of the hour, it talked about something very interesting. We're confronted with a story this morning that cuts to the heart of our national character. The FBI has announced the arrest of NBA Hall of Famer and Portland Trail Blazers head coach Chauncey Billups, alongside Miami Heat guard Terry Rozier, in connection with a sprawling illegal gambling operation tied to none other than La Cosa Nostra, the Genovese, Gambino, and Bonanno crime families. Yeah, you heard that right. Organized crime woven into the fabric of professional sports. Remember the Black Sox scandal? We've seen this before. Now, according to FBI Director Kash Patel, this is a historic arrest that exposes a criminal enterprise stretching from the hardwood to the underworld. 40 individuals have been taken into custody. The NBA, once a symbol of American athletic excellence, basketball is the only truly American sport invented in the United States, now finds itself entangled in a web of corruption that threatens the integrity of the game and the trust of the people. Billups, a 5-time All-Star and NBA champion, was taken into custody for his role in illegal poker games, yet astonishingly, he still stood on the sidelines coaching his team against the Timberwolves. Rozier, meanwhile, was absent from the Heat's game against Orlando, his arrest cloaked by a hamstring injury. No official statements from the teams. NBA, I've been told, is cooperating. But understand, this isn't about basketball as much as it is about the erosion of virtue in our institutions. It's about the slow bleed of honor from the veins of our republic. When sports icons become pawns in criminal syndicates, when multi-million-dollar franchises turn a blind eye, when the underworld is mixed into what's going on with the moral backbone of this country. We're not just spectators in this republic. We are its stewards. And today, we need to be shining a light on the shadows. Let's take a break. When I come back, let's talk more about our erosion of morality in America.
Barbecue, the Butcher's Kitchen, would like to thank every customer for your loyalty and continued support through these challenging times. Call for takeout and delivery of rib tips, brisket, ahi, tuna, roasted veggies, and much more. Barbecue's open from 11 to 7, Monday through Saturday, and delivers hot food safe and healthy. Call 499-5855 for details. 499-5855 Barbecue, as featured on diners, drive-ins, and dives. Get real. Get into Barbecue Reno.
Wake up and text. Text and eat. Text and catch the bus. Text and miss your stop. Wait. Text and be late to work. Sorry, I'm late. Text and work. Text and pretend to work. Text and act surprised when someone calls you out for not working.
Who, me?
Text and meet up with a friend you haven't seen in forever.
Hi. Oh, hey.
Text and complain that they're on their phone the whole time. Text and listen to them complain that you're on your phone the whole time. Text and whatever. But when you get behind the wheel, give your phone to a passenger. Put it in the glove box. Just don't text and drive. Visit StopTextsStopWrecks.org. A public service announcement brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
Are you shy and don't want to talk on the air? Text us your questions or comments to 775-237-2266. Now back to the show.
Welcome back, Mr. Constitution, Douglas V. Gibbs. I never really thought of a name for this particular program on Thursdays. I guess we could call it Thursday Live with Mr. Constitution. Welcome back to the program. We're talking about a lot of things going on in our world. And this NBA gambling thing, that is shocking to say the least. The level of, remember I said, politics runs downstream from culture and our morality, our level of morality, that defines our culture. And so now that same moral lens, let's bring it to the streets of our cities. And once again, don't forget to visit leozaki.com, leozaki.com. ZakiRadio.com is where I'm at. I'm on KPGF Radio in Reno. Thank you, PGF, for having me on the air. America Matters media stations, possibly affiliates all around the country. I don't know what the list is, but I do know this. Leo Zaki, the guy behind this, is running for governor, leozaki.com. Now, when we look at what's going on in this country, we need good leaders like Leo Zaki, but because the moral lens is not just focused on the NBA or things like that. I mean, let's bring that moral lens to the streets of our cities. We are witnessing violence, chaos, insurrection, not just random crime, but organized rebellion. We've got Antifa thugs torching businesses, assaulting police, and calling it justice. Could we tie this to the social justice movement? Criminal aliens flooding across our borders. Instead of enforcing the law, the opposition demonizes the very people trying to uphold it. It amazes me how they can embrace the very thing that people are against. And President Trump is working to clean up this mess, restoring law and order, defending our borders, standing against the rot that's infecting our institutions. And what do we get? What does he get in return? What does Trump and his followers and his supporters and people of a moral mindset, what do we get in return? Mockery, smears. And now we're seeing things that are even darker. Have you seen the teacher that was out on the street? She sticks her finger up against her neck, mocking the death of Charlie Kirk, the shot to his neck, by putting her fingers to her neck. That's not protest. That's spiritual sickness. And that's what happens when a nation forgets God and trades virtue for vengeance. This isn't just political warfare. It's spiritual warfare. It's a war on decency, on morality, on the Constitution itself. The same forces that riot in the streets are the ones trying to tear down every pillar of our republic, every principle that this nation is founded upon, that has made this country great. And I ask you, in America, if we don't reclaim our virtue, how can we preserve liberty? If we don't stand for truth, who will? Or as I would say to someone like Mr. Zaki, running for governor, or anybody else considering running for governor, if not you, then who? And so stay with me here now. We're just getting started. There's a lot going on here. And I want you to understand that as I go through all of this stuff, this is important. These are things we need to be talking about. And when you talk about the immorality, what accompanies that is deception, lies, right? That they'll do whatever they can to go after their opposition. They being anti-Constitution, anti-Trump, anti-America, anti-patriotism, whatever. And the media, the media's always been tainted, or at least it's been tainted during my lifetime. If ever there was, I remember reading that Thomas Jefferson even complaining about the newspapers. So media, this media being tainted seems to go hand in hand. Liars, deceivers, journalists. Goes hand in hand. Not all of them. There's some good ones out there, but you know what I mean. Now, when I was a kid, the left kind of was contained on 3 major networks. Then Rush Limbaugh broke radio wide open for conservative thought. Part of the reason I'm on radio, I am sure, is because Rush Limbaugh broke that mold, and he created conservative talk radio. And the advent of cable television, that added more voices. Mostly lefty voices, a few not so lefty voices. Now we've got networks on TV that we can go to that beyond just what you have on the radio. But even though the left has permeated the ranks of radio and television journalists, and it seems like a majority of them are completely crazy, nutcase leftists out of their mind, at least back then they tried to look like the facts mattered. Now journalism has become a game of gotcha instead of get to the facts. A good example, I think a good example is a recent textbook case of the left-wing media complex trying to smear Tom Homan with a rumor so thin it couldn't hold up a cocktail napkin. You know Tom Homan, right? He's the border czar, the perfect border czar. He pulls no punches. I love the guy. Straight shooter, no nonsense, the kind of guy who actually believes in enforcing the law. And when you go at him, he don't care. Go at it. I've got a job to do. Get out of my way. And because of that, the left hates him. I mean, they really hate him. So what do they do? They float a nasty, unsubstantiated rumor that he accepted a $50,000 bribe. The claim is it got handed to him by undercover FBI agents. No true evidence exists of this rumor. There are no charges, no indictment, no trial, just hearsay and headlines. And who's pushing this garbage? The usual suspects. The big one has been George Stephanopoulos, the Clinton consigliere turned Sunday morning inquisitor. And he tried to corner Vice President J.D. Vance on ABC's This Week. I'm sure you heard about this. Asking about a so-called FBI tape that nobody's seen, nobody's authenticated, nobody's confirmed. Vance, to his credit, didn't even flinch. I like this guy. I think he'll be the perfect successor to the Trump years. And he called what it was, a smear, a distraction, a reason why fewer and fewer Americans tune into the mainstream media circus. Quote, "You're insinuating criminal wrongdoing against a guy who has done nothing wrong," Vance said. Let's talk about the real issues. And this is the kind of shadow chasing that is important to Stephanopoulos while the government is shut down. Trumps aren't getting paid as they should be. Low-income families are wondering where the next meal might be coming from. Now, because food stamps and all that. And I get it. Federal interference with that. These programs shouldn't be lifetime programs. And I believe safety nets like welfare should be administered by the states, not the federal government. That's just a constitutional authority thing with me. But ABC wanted to talk about a bribe that didn't happen rather than what's going on because of the shutdown. The fact that the Democrats are out of their minds, causing violence, making threats, doing the gun to the neck thing to mock Charlie Kirk. And his big complaint is a bribe that didn't happen. And then when Vance really got going, the ABC team cut Vance off. Mid-sentence, boom, commercial break. Because when the truth doesn't fit the narrative, the left hits the mute button. Then we get to Bill O'Reilly, the former Fox News personality. He confronted Holman directly in front of a live audience with no plan to cut him off like ABC did to Vance. No teleprompters, no spin, just a question. Did you take $50,000? And Holman looked at him dead in the eye with that look on his, that Tom Holman look on his face. He's a straight shooter. This is no BS, and said, I didn't take $50,000 from anybody. Then he dropped the hammer. Day one I came back, said Holman. I recused myself from any discussions of any contact or any monetary decisions like that because I used to have a company that did consulting. I took a significant, huge pay cut to come back and serve my nation. I'm not enriching myself doing this job. And that's what integrity looks like, my friends. That's what service looks like. And that's why the left can't stand him or Trump. They're sitting there saying, they're doing it to enrich themselves. He took a pay cut. Trump took a pay cut. Trump doesn't even take his pay for being a president. He donates it to charity. And then he spends his own money with some donor money to rebuild a ballroom. And they even complain about that. The left, just about every president in the last 100 years have made, and longer, have made some kind of addition or fix or change or something to the White House. Trump does it, and he's, Satan incarnate or something. They can't beat Trump or his people on policy. They can't beat him on results, so they try to beat him with rumors. But here's the thing. Tom Holman doesn't care what they think. He said it himself. Quote, I don't care what people think about me. I never have because I know who I am. I work for the greatest president in the history of this nation, in my opinion, and we're doing the right thing every day. Boom. Mic drop. That's how you handle fake news. And it's the same baloney, malarkey, whatever word you want to use instead of the expletive. As usual, the media trying to sell you a scandal. They make up the scandal and claim it's true. Oh my goodness, look at the Republican. And there are going to be dummies out there that hear it go, oh my gosh, they're doing, because the accusation is all they need. I've got people in my life who come in, hey Doug, what about this? Who told you that? It's a lie. I remember one of my sister-in-laws one time said, well, no, it came from CNN. And I said, you do know that they're lying to you? And she says, oh no, they're national, they're national media. They're not allowed to lie. That told me everything I needed to know about her. Many Americans are falling for this, but less and less Americans are falling for this. And I get these questions all the time about what I think about what the media says. And I always respond the same. Who said it? And if it was a lefty source, you do know that it was probably not true. What are the facts behind it? Is it backed by facts? Where are the sources behind it? Or is it just another leftist attempt to deceptively attack a patriot? Because in the end, truth wins. Right? You've heard that, right? The truth shall set you free. And Tom Homan, he's still standing. Tom Homan, he's still moving forward. He's still got his proverbial guns firing. ICE is still doing their job. He is still getting a hold of these criminal aliens, getting them out of the country. They're freaking out, they being the left. Donald Trump is winning. The poll numbers are showing it. Just like I told you last time I was on the air, we're going to see a big change in the 2026 midterms. It is on its way to getting even worse for the Democrats. Thanks for being here. We're going to be right back with more to talk about. Don't go anywhere.
This is Peter from Nevada Real Estate Radio. I talk about the subjects that help you as a home buyer, seller, or investor. Some people might just focus on the negative things, so guess where they're going? We do it differently. We focus on the positive aspects of today's real estate opportunities. You might have to navigate through some murky waters, but we're here to help you achieve success. The Nevada Real Estate Radio, Thursdays, 3 p.m. on 93.7 FM. Nevada Real Estate Radio.
At A Proper Fit Footwear in the Reno Town Mall, we've been accomplishing happy feet for over 30 years.
We offer a various range of shoe styles and sizes for both men and women. From all-season shoes and orthotics to work boots and safety shoes, our professional and reliable staff possesses the knowledge to help you find the proper shoes to fit your needs. Hard to fit? Hard to find?
A Proper Fit Footwear is here to give our customers happy feet. We make people aware of potential foot problems as we're sizing their feet, suggesting the right arch support, and guiding them to the proper shoes for their needs.
Stop by A Proper Fit Footwear at 4001 South Virginia Street in the Reno Town Mall today, and allow the owner Mike Jones and our fabulous staff to find the perfect pair of shoes tailored to your specific needs.
A Proper Fit Footwear in the Reno Town Mall, the home of happy feet, where comfort and your feet meet.
Can you define the 4 different parts of Medicare? Do you have Medicare prescription drug gap coverage? At Nevada Senior Advisors, we will walk through the different parts of Medicare, including Medicare Advantage, Medicare Supplement, Part D prescription drug plans to help you determine which option is right for you. Visit nvsenioradvisors.com, call 775-674-2223 to set up an appointment. Nevada Senior Advisors is not affiliated with or endorsed by the federal Medicare program or any other government agency. Calling this number will direct you to a licensed sales agent.
To join the conversation, call 844-790-TALK. That's 844-790-8255. Now back to the show.
And welcome back, Douglas V. Gibbs, Mr. Constitution. You know, I've been in radio for a long time. I am on many stations, many shows around the country. I also have a big following worldwide. If you want to catch me on podcast with my Sunday night show on KPRZ and KCBQ, The Answer San Diego, just go to Mr. Constitution Hour by Douglas V. Gibbs, and you'll find it on, and I mean all of them, Odyssey, Spotify, whatever. I've been doing this a long time. I have been around the block as a radio guy. I take a lot of pride in being a radio host. Someone not too long ago was asking me about my shows. No. Podcasters, guys who do this free stuff on videos, they do shows. I'm a professional broadcaster, and I take it very seriously what I do. And as I watch what's going on, here's what I've got to say with all of that in mind. I have never seen the left this unhinged. And I've been involved in politics longer than I've been on radio. I've been on radio since 2011. I've been involved in radio in one way or another since 2007. I've been writing for newspapers, independent newspapers mostly, and online sites like Canada Free Press and American Patriot and so on and so forth, Central Idaho Post, the Sentinel, the Paris Progress and so on. So I've been writing since 2007. I've been blogging since 2006. I've been involved in a long time, but my wife could tell you, because we went to high school together. Way back in high school, during lunch, I'd be surrounded by 20 people because I'm arguing with someone over something political. I've been paying attention to politics a very long time, and I've never seen the left this unhinged in my life. What we're seeing is incredible. And I'm watching these No Kings rallies and how these people are acting in the street. And understand, these are the radical hippies from the late 60s and the early 70s getting one more stab in. This is what they were doing back then now. Now, my generation, which immediately followed the hippies were my teachers. You know, the young 20-something, 30-something teachers, those were my teachers when I was a kid. The generation that followed those knucklehead radical hippies was a conservative generation. And we are the ones that brought about someone like Reagan. My first election, I voted for Reagan. But this No King stuff, it's cracking me up because the authoritarianism, the kings, the monarch style, we're going to control what you do stuff has always been on the left, the Democrats. And so I created this list. So enjoy this with me for a second. If Trump was a king, he would not have allowed the No Kings rally to occur in the first place. If Trump was a king, he would increase regulations against the business sector rather than reduce them, as he has been doing. By the way, the Democrats believe in increasing regulations against the business sector while also using progressive taxation to tax them into extinction. You know, like communism did in the Soviet Union, China, Venezuela, Cuba, and the list goes on and on and on. If Trump was king, he would suspend the First Amendment's principle of free speech, you know, like the Democrats and their allies have done on college campuses, social media, and pretty much everywhere else. They could cancel speech that disagree with their narrative by calling it misinformation or disinformation. If Trump was king, he would suspend the First Amendment's principle of free speech by shutting down all of the left-wing media with a wave of his scepter. You know, forcing the media to report the way he wants, like the Democrats and their allies have been doing by infiltrating and taking over most of the mainstream media with their hard left journalists and opinion pundits who report their ideology like it isn't fake news. If Trump was king, he would weaponize the IRS to target his political enemies, you know, like the Obama administration did when conservative groups applying for nonprofit status were flagged and delayed. If Trump was king, he would force schools to teach ideologically tilted lessons, you know, like Biden did when he threatened to cut off school lunch funding if school districts did not adopt a gender dysphoria indoctrination curriculum. If Trump was king, he would mandate vaccinations, you know, like Biden and his accomplices tried to do during the COVID scamdemic, where Americans were forced to decide to obey or lose their jobs in many cases. Some of those as members of the U.S. Armed Forces who were forced out of service and cadets expelled for refusing the shot. According to Military News, the Army ended the military pay and benefits for more than 60,000 National Guard and Reserve soldiers who refused the COVID-19 shot, an authoritarian action that affected more than the service member. It affected their families. If Trump was king, he would use intelligence agencies to spy on political opponents, you know, like the Democrats did when the FBI surveilled Trump's campaign under questionable pretenses during the 2016 election. If Trump was king, he would pack the Supreme Court with loyal ideologues, you know, like the Democrats have threatened to do every time a ruling doesn't go their way, like Franklin Delano Roosevelt threatened to do during his presidency, and like the leftist Hamiltonian Federalist Party actually did during the Midnight Judges scandal. If Trump was king, he would use drones to kill Americans who don't agree with him without trial, without due process, you know, like Obama did in 2011 when his administration authorized a drone strike that killed Anwar al-Awlaki, a U.S. citizen In Yemen, weeks later, another strike killed his 16-year-old son. Citizens, no charges, no courtroom, no due process, just executive power and a missile. If Trump was king, he would use the government to buy out companies, like Obama did with General Motors when they got into trouble. Hey, you know how the free market works? If something fails, let it fail. Others will come in to replace it. It's good for the dying branches to be cut off so that a tree or a bush can grow. If Trump was king, he would use the government to control banking, regulate lenders, and dictate financial behavior in the name of protecting consumers, like Obama did with the Dodd-Frank Act, which gave federal agencies sweeping power over banks and mortgage to combat so-called predatory lending. If Trump was king, he would use law to dictate to private industries and force your participation, like Obama did with the Affordable Care Act, which compelled individuals to buy insurance and pressured businesses to comply or face harsh penalties. If Trump was king, he would house detained illegal aliens tightly up against each other in cages, including children, like Obama did. If Trump was king, he would raise taxes to give the government more power to spend and redistribute wealth in a communist manner, like the Democrats have. If Trump was king, he would declare climate emergencies to bypass Congress, like the Democrats and their internationalist leftist allies have to push through radical authoritarian environmental policies without legislative approval. If Trump was king, he would ban gas-powered cars and stoves, like progressive states and cities have started doing in the name of climate justice, regardless of costs or practicality. And we can throw incandescent light bulbs and a whole list of other products on that list too. If Trump was king, he would use executive orders to erase borders to win elections and create chaos so that more federal government involvement in local communities is required to control the situation, and then proclaim that the police need to be defunded, which creates even more need for federal influence. Like Biden did when he reversed Trump-era immigration policies and created a humanitarian crisis at the southern border in each of our cities. If Trump was king, he would force banks to report your transactions over $600. Like the Biden administration proposed to do to monitor Americans' financial activity under the guise of catching tax cheats. If Trump was king, he would redefine words to fit his agenda. Like the left did when they changed the definition of recession during the economic downturns to avoid bad press. If Trump was king, he would use the DOJ to prosecute political rivals over things that are not even a crime. Like the Democrats did with their lawfare campaign against Trump and his allies, where investigations were more about the accusation than any actual criminal activity, and then make sure they had their judges in place to hammer home the verdicts. If Trump was king, he would push for digital IDs, centralized currency, for more authoritarian control over people's lives. Like globalist Democrats have floated to increase surveillance and control over personal finances, your personal finances. If Trump was king, he would use the FBI and civilian agitators to infiltrate opposition rallies, provoke chaos, and fabricate an image of insurrection, then unleash federal officers to hunt down anyone that had been nearby or even passive onlookers, destroy their lives, put them in prison. Like the Democrats did on January 6, 2021, when they deployed 274 FBI assets, Antifa operatives, and the Capitol Police to ignite a staged riot at the Capitol, even before those who watched Trump speak at the ellipse even arrived. And I bet you could come up with some more if you wanted to. I bet you if you wanted to look hard enough, you'd find more. And when it gets to their judges and getting their judges in there, a great example is the John Bolton case. Remember, Lady Justice wears a blindfold. You've seen the statue, right? Sword in one hand, the scales in the other, blindfold, because she's supposed to be blind to everything but the law. Only the law matters. But when it comes to progressive, far deep, left deep state, the truth doesn't matter. And they're going to make sure their people are in there. And the judge tapped to oversee John Bolton's criminal case is none other than Judge Theodore Chong, an Obama appointee with a track record of torpedoing Trump-era policies and rubber stamping the radicals' left agenda. Now, you may not know him by name, but you know him by action. He's the one that struck down Trump's travel ban. He's the one that struck down protections against chemical abortions during the scamdemic. And matter of fact, Andy Ogles of Tennessee filed impeachment against this judge months ago, pointing out that this guy's rulings against Elon Musk and Doge and, of course, President Trump were all unconstitutional. He leans so far left, he's practically horizontal. He's a poster child for judges operating against the Constitution. He should be removed. And this is the guy that somehow, just so, it's supposed to be random, somehow got the John Bolton case. His resume reads like a DNC donor roll. And this case goes way beyond Bolton and the appearance of deep state manipulation. This is deeper than that. And we've got the courts trying to micromanage Congress, micromanage the president, rewrite national policy, and make sure they protect their own and go against Trump's allies. When we come back, we got more to talk about, but this time it's going to be about Adelita Grijalva and her seat that's being held up for her. Be right back.
Okay, we are running a car drive right now to help veterans all across America. So if you have an old car, truck, or van, even a motorcycle or an RV sitting around, you can right now give it away and help the vets. They really need your help. And your car will help support the vets and their families. And guess what? You even get a tax donation. Plus, we'll even come and pick up your car for free. And all you've got to do is pick up your phone right now and make a free call. Now is the perfect time to do something good for the vets. Give back to the vets right now for all they've done for this country. And your old car can really help them. So call the Veterans Car Donation Program right now for free pickup of your vehicle. Help the vets and help your taxes at the same time. Call right now.
800-296-1259. 800-296-1259. 800-296-1259. That's 800-296-1259.
We're talking to Victor from Precision Diamonds. Victor, we have talked before about the fact that you started 27 years ago in Park Lane Mall in a little kiosk. You are now in your own building across the street from the convention center. You've had to do something right.
Well, as we like to think that hard work, you like to think that it does pay off, but you get lucky along the way. You worked hard, you pay attention, and you get yourself ready. So hopefully when the right opportunity comes up to buy a beautiful building like we just have, you triple your size, you cut your overhead by half, and now you know that you're more competitive than ever.
Plus, you've had a chance to use all of the things you learned from that little kiosk in Park Lane Mall.
Oh, man, along the way, I'll tell you, as far as writing that lease check every month, boy, there were times that it was really hard to do, so you learn from your landlords, and it was really great feeling to say goodbye to the landlord. This has allowed us to truly become your local jeweler, your personal shopper.
Thank you, Victor. Precision Diamonds, your local jeweler across from the convention center.
Want to expand your advertising dollar? Sponsor this or any America Matters program by calling 775-827-8900, extension 2. Now back to the show.
Douglas v. Gibbs. Thank you. Mr. Constitution, Douglas v. Gibbs. My engineer had to unmute my mic. I mute it when I'm offline so I could do whatever and get prepared for the next segment. And here we go. Every once in a while, the mind just goes wandering. Thank you, sir, for unmuting my microphone. Welcome back to the program. Remember Leo Zaki, ZakiRadio.com, LeoZaki.com. Find out about his quest for governor. And, I am a very opinionated individual. I can be, in some cases, a little loud. That's what they tell me. I remember one time I was on a show. It was a Friday show on Patriots Soapbox, and my wife actually is on that program with me, and she asked me a question, and I was getting passionate about something, telling her about it, and what's going on, what I thought. And so in the chat room says, "Oh, don't yell at your wife." Wasn't yelling at her. I'm just a passionate guy. And as a passionate guy, well, I sometimes get a little loud, I guess. So I'm an interesting in another sort is I'm a multitasker. For example, I've got something going on here, I've got something going on there, I'm paying attention to this, whatever. But I will always make sure I bring you the truth. And what that means is I am not party focused. I'm focused on the truth. The United States Constitution, common sense, logic. When I say conservatism, people say, what are you trying to conserve? I'm trying to conserve the original principles of the Constitution. That's what I mean by conservative. And I mean truth. I mean what's right. Because I don't believe that there's a left and right as much as there is a right and wrong. The left and right comes from an old idea that goes way back to the French Revolution. Those who supported the king, supported the state church, and wanted no change sat on the right of the chamber. Those who wanted change were liberally minded. They were secular. They wanted to get rid of the established church and wanted religion to have no influence whatsoever on government. They sat on the left. Then in the middle were the moderates. Here's the thing. In America, we never had a state church. We never had a monarchy. So the right-left here means a little different. While those basic principles are more or less correct, those who have a Christian faith, those who don't believe that change for the sake of change is a good thing, those who believe that what we have is a pretty good thing on the right, those who are secular, those who want change for the sake of change, those who want to move away from what was on the left. So those characteristics are similar. But when it comes to America, the left-right is about percentage of government. Far left is 100% government. Far right is 0% government. So anarchy would be on the far right. The interesting thing about the far right, anarchy, is once anarchy is achieved, then once people start screaming out for order, the very people that cause the anarchy then create an oligarchy, and everything moves to the far left. So, and so that's what right-left is in this country. It's about percentage of government. The Constitution is dead center. The United States Constitution takes this big government idea but limits the heck out of it. It's dead center. So I don't believe that we have a left and a right in this country, because I don't believe anybody, except for anarchists, who want to go far left ultimately are to the right of the Constitution. Even the Republican Party is to the left of the Constitution. Even the Republican Party, even President Trump calls for more government than what the Constitution calls for. So it's not really about right versus left. It's the extremes or the degrees of what is how far to the left. So when I say the left, I mean the extreme left. I'm talking about those that are dancing on the grave of those who have died under the thumb of communism. I'm talking about those hard left, socialist, collectivistic, maybe communists. Democrats don't consider themselves that, but progressivism, it's ahead in that. That's the reason why the communists, love them. They are communists. They're communist light, I guess you could say, but they're still communists. They ultimately want communists. When Obama used government to take over General Motors, that was a communist move. When they accused Trump of being fascist, and they said, well, he's far right. Fascism is not far right. Fascism is far left. It seeks government control no different than communism. It seeks to control the means of production no different than communism does. It's just that they have a different method. Communism, socialism seeks to control the means of production through ownership by government. Government grocery stores, government transportation organizations, government production facilities. What fascism does is it seeks to control the means of production, but by relationship. It keeps up this illusion that the private sector is still private, but they hit them with so many regulations and also collusive relationships, collusion, where the government is giving protective laws to those who play nice with the government and do what they can to destroy those businesses or individuals that don't play nice with the government. That's fascism, but it's still on the left. It's far left. They can scream far right all they want. The only far right people out there is anarchy. And the anarchists are on their side because anarchists are not seeking far right, they're seeking far left, but they're doing it through the path of anarchy. That's what Antifa is. They're anarchy communists. Throw the system into anarchy, Cloward Piven, right? Destroy the whole thing. And then out of what was destroyed, out of that rubble, you rise the phoenix of communism. That is the plan. So when we talk about this stuff, understand what we're talking about when I say left or whatever. Now, Adelita Grijalva won a special election on September 23rd, 2025 for Arizona's 7th congressional district, succeeding her late father, Raul Grijalva. Like her father, she's a hardcore leftist Democrat, and so far Republican leadership in the House of Representatives has refused to swear her in. Johnson is saying, well, we're in a shutdown. We can't do it right now. And the battle has drawn attention and has led to Arizona suing Speaker Mike Johnson over it. The lawsuit is no surprise since the Arizona Attorney General has been threatening legal action all along. The optics for Republicans look very partisan, and their reasons for not seating Grijalva politically motivated. House Speaker Mike Johnson states that the oath will be administered when the House resumes full legislative business, and at the moment, their efforts are centered around resolving the current government shutdown. The lawsuit, Grijalva versus Johnson, was filed in the U.S. District Court for the District of Columbia and is more of a scare tactic than anything, with the hopes that the federal court will force Congress to act. I was told by my friend Warhamster, who I'm on Zaki Radio with on Wednesdays, that he believes that this is a way of sending a message to the Senate Democrats. See, we're going to play this game until you guys restart the government. You guys keep us in a shutdown, fine. We're going to do things like keeping your people from being seated. Now, for me, the issue at play here is if the courts were to remain consistent with past cases, as this case now goes before the courts, they will dismiss the case using the political question argument. Political question, this argument in the legal world is an argument that disallows the courts from intervening in matters involving Congress because of the separation of powers concept. The courts can't dictate to Congress. Congress can't dictate to the courts, although they can shut them down. That's a different discussion. Exceptions clause. Just like the courts are not supposed to be able to micromanage the president, but they've been doing it. Cases in which the political question angle has been used by the federal courts in conjunction with the separation of powers doctrine to both limit and justify congressional actions. There's 5 of them that I looked up. Sela versus Consumer Financial Protection Bureau 2020, Constitution Association versus Kamala Devi Harris 2020. I was a part of that lawsuit. Zubik versus Burwell 2016, Free Enterprise Fund versus Public Company Accounting Oversight Board 2010, and Humphreys Executor versus United States 1935. And if the federal courts do not use the political question argument to dismiss this case and instead rule that Speaker Johnson is in violation of the Constitution or some law on the books that the courts would be in violation, they would be in violation of past precedent set by federal court system. Now, that's not to say that they can't change what they've said in the past. In Garland versus United States 2019, Justice Clarence Thomas states in his judicial opinion that if a past case, a past ruling or opinion is egregiously unconstitutional, it needs to be flipped. It needs to be undone. They would also be in violation of the fact of Article 1, Section 5 of the Constitution, because each House of Congress is tasked with being its own judge of elections, returns, and qualifications of its own members, may determine its own rules of its proceedings. In short, regardless of what the courts say, Speaker Johnson and Republicans are the majority in the House of Representatives, and they fully constitutionally are authorized to hold off Grijalva from being seated. I don't see the reasoning behind it. I don't fully agree with Speaker Johnson's actions, but he is constitutionally permitted to take that action. Now, the left, the Democrats, will claim that Powell versus McCormack, 1969, gives them the authority to go to make sure he seats her because that court, that ruling held that Congress, that the House cannot use internal rules to deny or delay seating of a qualified member. And I will say this, Johnson's claim is that they have what's called procedural sovereignty. Procedural sovereignty argument basically means that they are their own separation of powers, and they don't have to. They can do what they want in session, out in session. They can decide when they're in session. All of that. They're sovereign from the courts, and he's right. Having not been sworn in yet, Grijalva can't, perform any of the functions of a sitting representative. Staffing, constituent services, voting, which she couldn't do anyway. They're in a pro forma session right now until the shutdown's over, and moving into a congressional office. She couldn't vote until they're no longer the pro forma session. So it doesn't really change anything. They haven't sat her. But I looked at at history. George Washington, John Adams, Thomas Jefferson, Madison, those presidencies, all the way down, all of them. Not once in American history has someone not been seated in the House of Representatives or in the Senate, for that matter, for political reasons. Maybe because there's a question regarding the election. Maybe because there is a question regarding their involvement in a case of treason, which was in the case of the case of one John Smith of Ohio, because it was believed that he was affiliated with Aaron Burr and his alleged treason, which wound up getting dismissed. But there has never been historically. So historically, he's got nothing to stand on. I think Adelita Grijalva should be seated, but we'll see. United we stand, combined we kick butt. God bless America, my friends. God bless you. DouglasVGibbs.com, DouglasVGibbs.com, DouglasVGibbs.com. We'll see you next time. Thanks for spending the time with me. Have a great one.